Shanghai GDG is a very interesting developer community.
I'm glad somebody has asked this question.
This is where the magic happens.
This is primarily a question and answer show. So if any of you out there would like to ask questions.
GDL Israel, GDL-IL. Today we're going to focus on Google Cloud Endpoint and HTML5. And before we jumping into the few slides that I prepared, let's speak real briefly on the hot news from yesterday. Google Plus have a new sign-in. And I guess if you are a front-end developer and you want to check out how to leverage it and use it in your websites, web apps, and even on mobile apps on Android, just search on googledevelopers.com/live. There are a few other episodes that are dedicated for it, and it will give you great summary of how you could tap into it and use it more effectively and easier. Let me share my screen with you. Let's jump real quick here. And oh, even before that, let's have this nice hangout shared with others. And we're done. Okay, so without further ado, let me share my screen with you, and we could tap into some of the slides that I created. So this is basically a talk that I gave during last DevCon Tel Aviv, which was a great conference. If you are a web developer, front-end developer located in Israel, I highly recommend you to check out DevCon. It's a really, really great conference. One nice tweak that you have in this slide, that by the way you could watch the slides later on here, ido-green.appspot.com, and it's the first slide basically. All those fields are editable, so this is basically where you could see those slides, and if you want, you could basically just do whatever you like with those tiny fields. So to the ones that doesn't know me, I'm acting as developer advocate here in Google, focusing on Chrome, HTML5, Google Cloud. I'm mainly active these days on G+, and you could search Ido Green, or on Twitter, or on my blog. Just feel free. We do have this episode of GDL-IL, GDL Israel, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Israel time. For 25-30 minutes, so just feel free to join us, and if you have questions, we'll love to try and help you with them. By the way, if you are joining the Hangout, please try to start with mute, and only if you have questions, just ping me on the chat, and we'll be happy to try and answer them. So let's try and jump into what we're going to do today. We're going to speak basically about mobile app engine backends, which we call the Google Cloud Endpoints, and see how you as a developer can leverage them, use them, and be more effective when you're writing your code, maintaining it, and later on consuming it from other platforms like Android, iOS, and of course the web. Then we're going to define real quick what is a modern web app, what are the main characteristics that we want to see in a web app, and then real briefly we'll speak about some of the tools and the APIs that I find very exciting these days. Last but not least, I'll try to open Chrome DevTools, which I'm really passionate about, and give you some tips to make you more productive when you're working with it. So yeah, this is thanks to our sponsors, but we don't need it today. Google Cloud Endpoint is basically based on Google App Engine. Now, what is Google App Engine? Very similar to Chrome, which is based on 3 S's: security, speed, and simplicity. On Google App Engine, we have 3 other things. It's easy to build and develop your specific app on it. It's easy to scale it because you don't have to worry about it. And it's easy to maintain it. It's a platform as a service, and you are doing what you're best at, meaning you developing your unique app and let Google App Engine scale and maintain and use all the benefits that we're giving you as a platform. As you could see from this slide, even in Google metrics, App Engine is pretty big these days. It passed 7.5 billion daily hits, and you can see here on the timeline that it's growing pretty fast up and to the right. Some core features that we have today, of course you could read all of them from the slide, but I will just focus on few things that are roughly new. It's not brand new, but it's something in the past 12 months, and if you haven't been following, probably you missed it or haven't seen it. I will focus first on what startups are keeping asking me. It's great that we have the largest NoSQL database in the world, but if I'm working with MySQL, do I have any option to work with it on top of Google App Engine? And the answer is yes. We do have Cloud SQL, which basically giving you MySQL in the cloud. And of course, you could check the water with data storage, which basically giving you a very nice NoSQL option. We also have Memcache. That's another hot topic. And in terms of compute, we have lots of different types of features and abilities to give you the ability to run jobs that are faster than 30 seconds or immediate requests that you will do to any REST API or your web app. We have large set of APIs, and we'll see later on how you could tap into them, play with them through the API Explorer, and get a feel to them even before you're writing one line of code. And of course, huge amount of services. Some of them are your own proprietary service that you could run from or on top App Engine, and some of just APIs and services that Google offering you. As you could see, a month in the life of an App Engine, lots of big names there, Gigya, Khan Academy, Best Buy, all of them are running on true production mode in App Engine, and I highly encourage you to check out a blog post that Khan Academy did that summarized what they had in terms of experience of large spike in traffic after a 60-minute interview that they did with Sal Khan. In terms of storage, as we said, a fully managed NoSQL solution that basically holding the largest NoSQL database in the world, through 2 trillion operation per month. So even if you have a really hot app that is flourishing on the Play Marketplace, you are in good hands. You don't need to worry about sharding and scaling and some reverse proxying and squids and varnish and all the good stuff that if you have been in another platform, you need to master it. Here, all the work is done for you with the best practices. Yeah, it basically will know what to do, how to split, and make sure that you are up and running. And yeah, it's spread between few data centers. A very nice, compelling example is GetAround, which after they won TechCrunch this trap, you could see the graph there, pretty huge, and they were up and running all the time. The main motivation here is that in these days, basically what you want to do is create your secret sauce and have a nice REST API that later on you could consume from multiple platforms. Of course, the web is the biggest out there, but let's not deceive ourselves. We do have a very big, flourishing ecosystem, and Android is huge these days. And yeah, then you have to scale it, especially if you are on Android and your app is in the top 10 list somewhere. You do want to be in safe water. Where we're coming to check what we want to do in terms of design, this encapsulate basically what you'll see again and again in a startup life. Basically, you want some shared state in the backend, some source of truth that you'll hold all your data and state about your user. Maybe in the future you'll want to use some other services like search, mail, etc. And then on top of them, you'll want the application logic that creating your secret sauce and giving your specific service. And of course, these days you'll need to create some kind of API that all your different clients could consume and leverage. And then you start to implement it, and like we know in life, it's starting simple, and quite quickly you're getting to more and more features. You need to share the database because you have a huge amount of data in it. You want authentication, authorization, login, compression, performance, and lots of goodness to build into the API that you started and thought it would be just, let's say, crude application with very different or very simple set of APIs endpoints. Usually, quite quickly, you're ending up with quite a lot of things to manage. And then let's not forget, you do need to write some sort of API wrapper per platform. So here in our case, you'll need to do it once in Java, then in Objective-C, and of course in JavaScript, so you could consume it from the web. And then after lunch, and hopefully a successful one, you need to start and being in the head of the administrator or /ops that know how to maintain the middleware, know how to add features on time, and make sure that all the engines will work while the plane is flying. And then in Google Cloud Endpoints, basically, we're saving you, again, lots of legworks. So the secret sauce here, or the proof is in the pudding, is actually being built and used inside Google, and luckily for us, and I'm really glad to see it again and again, being open to the world, to other developers in other companies to leverage and enjoy it and use it. You can see similar examples like AngularJS and other projects. And now in this one, basically we're giving you the goodness of App Engine, but then with a dedicated option to leverage the benefits of what we already baked in Google Cloud Endpoints. So basically, you have the shared state that you'll want, you have the data store, you're focusing on your application logic, and from the minute you're starting to run with it, you have auth built in, you have already the SDKs that we have to Google APIs that you could leverage and use in your own APIs. Let's see how does it look more thoroughly. So when we're speaking about how it's related, we have the ability to discover and actually have the glue between the front end and the back end. So in this example, you could see the Google API Explorer giving you the ability to go to any service basically that we have on Google, and I'll try to make it a bit bigger. And you could see a huge amount of services. And in each service, I could play with it and see what are the main things, what are the main endpoints that I could leverage and use. Let's go just quickly for the simplicity with an example of G+. You could see immediately what I could do in each and every endpoint. And let's say that I'm going to the activity. I need to have some ID, but then if I'm executing, immediately you're getting a response with this specific get command. And of course, I don't have here a certain value, so I'm not getting the right information, but I can see exactly what's happening here. And it's really easy to hold and have the glue between the front end and the back end developer when we're speaking about a new ability to discover. Basically, everything will be backed in a JSON format, which is very easy to run tests against and to check what we need to get from the backend. And of course, very, very easy to consume it from the web. You basically loading Google API client in JavaScript, and then in this example, for instance, you loading the URL shortener, and you could work with it. And of course, we are supporting, I would say, quite a lot of main languages and technologies, so every developer could choose the ones that they are most productive with. The great things about it is that basically you could create your own API and get the same service or level of discoverability and later on maintainability. In this example, and I highly encourage you to check other Google Developer Live episodes that are dedicated to Google Cloud Endpoints, which giving you great example of live coding in the Python App Engine environment. And basically, they gave the great example of a tic-tac-toe game. But you could take it and just think about your own specific scenario. In this case, you're writing your back-end code. You decorate the API method very easily, both in Java and Python. then generating the client libraries for you, and you're writing your client app based on the platform that you want to target: Android, the web, iOS, etc. Here is the URL that you could play with, and basically I could show you real quick how does it look like. So as you can see, it's a very simple, nice game. Hopefully I'll win. Yeah. And you could do view source later and just see exactly what's going on there. And of course, who is next playing? And this is our API. And yeah, if you want to run it on mobile, of course it will run on the major platform out there. And here are two links to the tic-tac-toe game and the Bira demo app that I did in last I/O. And you could see our Bira rating app and actually all the good things that you could check with it live in terms of search for good beers, insert a new beer, get the list of beers, etc. Let's just for fun see what's happening here. And yeah, right now it's down, but hopefully it will be up and running again after I'll finish this episode. Let's jump real quick to the web. So usually this is the face that I see on new developers in terms of speaking on some specific new ways to leverage and utilize HTML5. When we're speaking about modern web app, what we want to see is the power of HTML5, the new APIs, new capabilities that is harnessing front-end developers with what the user are expecting to get. So basically the native or the desktop experience, which is mainly smoothness, responsiveness, and all the good features of being close to all the rich APIs that we have on each and every platform. When we're combining the two, basically we're getting modern web apps. Here are some bold examples for great modern web apps: the New York Times Reader, Gmail Offline, Angrybed, Chrome.angrybed.com, and Hipmock, which is a travel search engine. All of them are sharing some very basic set of skills, if you like. And here I'll just note that all of them are coming with offline-first methodologies, so they will work nicely even when you don't have any connection. They will do the right things like Google Doc is doing today in terms of syncing when you are online and getting the most important things for you when you are offline, so you could be productive on a long flight or if you are in a submarine, for instance. When we're seeing more and more logic being passed to the client side, we want to work with MV Star framework, so we won't have the case of a spaghetti code. All of those apps are device aware, so they're using responsive design to make the most out of the real estate that a certain mobile phone or tablet or desktop or laptop computer will give them in terms of screen size. And when we're saying 60 frames per second, it meaning that we want to achieve 60 frames per second, so the responsiveness and the smoothness and the speed in terms of performance of the app will be as fast as we can. Above 60, we don't gain anything, it's just a waste because the eye can't catch it. And below, we do want to achieve the best for our users, don't we? Three bold examples to what we are meaning when we say client-side frameworks. AngularJS, which is open source project that started in Google, looking at HTML as if it was a dynamic markup language and not for static sites like HTML was invented to. And there are some very nice bold things in this framework that I highly encourage you to check, like dependency injection, unit tests from the ground up, and other good things. Backbone.js, which is by far the most popular MVC framework today, I think it's deserve the popularity because it's the most simple one and giving you lots of freedom to do whatever you like or whatever you need in your specific case. And Ember.js, which Yuda Katz and Tom Dale are doing, and a great ambition framework. And if you're thinking about a web app which your users are spending the vast majority of their time with rich set of features, I highly encourage you to check Ember as well. Eddie Osami did a great work in his to-do MVC, which you have the link here. So if afterwards you'll click on it, you could gain all the compressions between the leading MV Star frameworks today. And here you have a link to the full tutorial that I did in terms of leveraging Google Cloud Endpoint with Backbone in our Bira app. Why we need offline, well, I guess the first and foremost is just because users will gain better performance and will like your app or service better. All the other good reasons are also valid here. How to achieve offline? We have luckily today lots of different ways to achieve it, from app cache to save the basic building blocks of our web apps like the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and up to local storage, IndexedDB, and File API, which letting us save data locally on the client side and work with it like we will work with files in any other platform, or like having a full-blown NoSQL DB on the client side, which is IndexedDB. Local storage, by the way, is very well adopted, and most of the modern web browsers out there are supporting it. When you're going to store data on the client side, I encourage you to check libraries like Launcher, which basically giving you the ability to use Modernizer, check what this specific client support, and then use the best tool for the job. How are we detecting if we are offline or online? With this specific, simple one-liner, navigator.online or window will know when to do our syncing and when just to work in an offline mode. Some of the cool API that I'll run over them real quick. So CSS. 2012 was the flourishing year for CSS specs, and one of the main things that we learned to appreciate is that the vast majority of our users are coming with different devices, different screen sizes, and we want the ability to have the holy grail of our app in terms of the main focus of the center point of the article or the main focus of the app itself, and then a nice sidebar or a footer header. And with all the old abilities of CSS like fixed position or floats or tables, it didn't work. Luckily for us, we have a few new ways to achieve it, and I would encourage you to check those two, the new Flexbox layout and the Grid Layout Manager. Basically, we're achieving this. That's what I try to describe, but picture worth 1,000 words. Here it's very true. And here there's a link for a page that E.G., my colleague, did, which basically giving you the ability to test the Flexbox, create what you want, and then just copy-paste the CSS that will do it. Here you could see nicely that all the polyfills are being achieved by the plus sign, and simple things like do even space between elements, or making sure that they have the same space around, or start at the top or at the bottom are just one line here. Slick things like stretching your elements and just making sure that they will be in the same place are being achieved very, very easily. And you know here that when you're writing code, basically you're reading your code much more often than you're writing it, so shorter is better, and this is just a nice thing to show you how this short CSS code is very maintainable. One other thing is that you could play when your phone, let's say, is horizontal and then it's suddenly vertical. Very, very easily you could just switch it with this one-liner. You could also control the order, and if here we want the B after the C, all we need to do is just say to the Flexbox that the second child, the B, which is here, will be in order of 1, and you could see they changed their order. We could do other nice things like controlling the B here and making sure that it will be 3 times the size of the other components. And again, just try and think and imagine how much more lines it will cost you if you want to do it in CSS without the Flexbox. It's great here because basically we're communicating to the browser exactly what we want to achieve from it. And it will do the right thing even if we are now on a different screen size, a different device. Who is supporting it? So luckily for us, it's Chrome, Safari, and IE10. And to the ones that doesn't know, Opera just announced 2 weeks ago that they are moving to WebKit, so it's great news because hopefully soon we'll see it there as well. Dynamic CSS, it's another fun, very productive way to create or basically calculate on the fly what you want the element to look like. And in this case, you could see that I'm calculating the width and height, and basically giving it the 100% minus the element, so it will work on different devices. And basically, when I'm hovering, it's just border radius 0, so you're getting this nice effect. And it's supported on all major browsers, as you can see, and Opera will join the party soon, hopefully. Data binding. So data binding is another cool way that lets you be more productive and save state and data in the DOM. And in this example, I just wanted to show you how easy and trivial it is to do it with AngularJS. Even if you never saw AngularJS code, you could probably understand that here we're defining a new Angular app when we are adding this meta tag to our div. And here we're just defining that our model, basically the component that will hold our data, will be part of the input. And then we're just rendering it here with these handlebars. And you can see that I achieved this nice event of binding the slider to the value on the side with these 4 lines of code. Basically, it's 3. Of course, you don't need any JavaScript framework in order to achieve it. We have, from the jQuery days, the data attributes that allow us actually to have fun and put one-way data binding. Here it's the Postman one, but it's very productive and it's nice. Don't get poor in the wrong context here. Here you could see that what we achieved, we're just using the pseudo element after and basically calculating the content of this element. And basically, after we're touching this event listener, the data, again, between the input slider and the value that we'll put on the side will be the same. One-way data binding that's basically supported on all major browsers is the data list. So you could see this really nice, simple markup that's letting us have autocomplete. And we could do like that, or we could start typing and it will autocomplete for us. And the good news here is that it's very useful and supported on all browsers. So go ahead and please use it. Multi-thread programming is basically something that is very dear to my heart. I basically got so excited about it that in 2011, I wrote a book about it, Web Workers, and you are most welcome to check it out. And if not, all the demos of the books are on my GitHub, so feel free to download them and play with them. It's a very nice, simple API that lets you construct a new worker, which basically will contain a new JavaScript code that you want to run, but not on the main thread that will block the client painting and do some ugly things to your user or to your product responsiveness. After we declaring or using the constructor of a new worker, we're just attaching to it a new event listener. So we'll use post message in order to communicate to the worker and from the worker. And in this example, we're just passing it for the start a few settings. In the worker itself, we'll need again to add a listener, so we'll have the channel open, and then not all the window.api are available in the worker, of course, for security reasons, but you do have some nice ways to import scripts from other places in JSONP, get some offloads, get back callbacks, and handle the work and communicate them back to your parent, mainly the page that created you. You do want to use Modernizer. Modernizer, which Paul Irish and some other great cool guys are maintaining, lets you have feature detection and not some other ugly browser sniffing or things like that. And with one line of modernizer.webworkers, you'll know if you could leverage the browser capability or not. Another very nice aspect that I wish to see more developers leveraging is shared workers. With shared workers, basically you have a worker which will be shared between all the tab or windows of your app. So think about Gmail, where you're opening it in a few windows or tabs, and you want one source of truth that will communicate to the server or will act with your local NoSQL DB. As I mentioned before, all the examples are on my GitHub, so please feel free to check them out and give me feedback. One of the things that I, assuming held back leveraging web workers and seeing them more and more, is it was pretty hard to debug them. But luckily to us, I think it's from Chrome 18, and now we are way on Canary on 27 soon, you have this nice checkbox, which basically if you check it, you'll get DevTools to the worker itself, and you could play with it, run with it, and inspect, and do all the other things that you're doing in order to debug your worker. File systems. So like any other platform, yes, we do have file system, and you could work with binary files, text files. Everything is kosher. And how you are basically requesting the file system to allocate your storage, this is the syntax. You have few things that you need to pay attention here, but because we don't have too much time, I won't dive into it. There is a great article on HTML5 Rock that Eric Bilderman wrote, which basically will dive into all the nits and grits of file system API. Of course, for security reason, it will be bind. The files are not just floating there on your hard disk under whatever you think they are, but they basically located under the installation of your browsers, and they are sandboxed to the origin, meaning the protocol, the domain, and the port. And yeah, you could think about lots of great things that you could do with files, just like native apps got the ability to access files on any other platform. We see it more and more being used and leveraged in dynamically cached assets for games. For instance, Angry Birds are using it, and they have north to 100 megabytes of assets. Basically, one of the great things about this new API is that you don't need to learn anything new. They're still using the source or the href in this example of the image, and you could get the to URL here and basically get this resource address, which is basically like you would think of a URL on the web, but locally on your file system. And with this, you just resolved it. What's even better is that all the code is being handed to us, and you have this nice library filer.js on GitHub that lets you work with files like you work with files on Linux. So just check it out, very easy. You init the filer with the amount of memory that you want to consume on the disk, the amount of storage, and then you could do things like ls or cp and just work with them. Here is the example of working with binary, etc. Yeah, so one of the things were, okay, but it's only on Chrome. Well, with this shim, it will work on IE10 and Firefox as well. Efficiency data transfer, well, one of the main things were that for complex types like file, blob, array type, using post message wasn't too productive because it's not very efficient. We're doing a copy command, and if you think about, I don't know, 50 megs of objects, it won't be too efficient. And we do have a better way to do it today with transferable objects. Basically, we're just copying a pointer, and not everything is being copied, so it's more of just a move operation. And with this test that we'll have in the next slide, you could see that they improved the results 50 times. All we need to do is just have this second argument here. And in this case, just try and run it. As you can see here, I'm running it inside Chrome, so I'm getting a response of 3 milliseconds, 5 milliseconds. When I'll try to run the same test on other browser, you'll see measurements of 250 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds, this sort of things. How to do the feature detection? Well, with this simple code, you will know exactly if the browser is supported transferable objects or not. And right now, it's supported only on Chrome. Native hardware. So we have a flourishing in the ability of HTML5 to expose to us APIs native hardware, or basically bringing us closer to the metal. The source of truth is, of course, on W3C. And we have some really nice things today in terms of Geo APIs, device orientation, WebGL on the GPU, files as we spoke, network connectivity, battery, gamepad. Basically, both USB and Bluetooth are encapsulated here, and WebRTC, which basically giving you the ability to touch the video and audio inputs of the browser. There's a really cool demo that Sam Dolan did, which basically show you how Chrome is speaking with Firefox through using WebRTC. Please Google it and enjoy it. Here is one cool thing that I want to show you on DevTools. If we'll go mark it and click on inspect, DevTools will be open. Oh, nice. Let's open it again. And let's make it a bit smaller. And what I want to share with you here is basically the ability to go to the web tools and override the user agent and see how our slides will look like on Android Nexus S. So immediately you could see, let me make it even bigger, that once I'm clicking on the user agent, I'm having for free the device metrics that are changing for me. So I could test it on different devices. Let's take, for example, I don't know, iPhone 5. So I could see it immediately. Maybe BlackBerry, Playbook, again. So I have all the devices, I have the user agent, and I could do nice things like override the geolocation or the device orientation or even emulate touch event. So if I want to make sure that my, in this case, slides will run nicely on your tablet or mobile device, I could emulate the touch event. And by the way, it's working nicely on mobile devices. So please feel free to consume these slides from any mobile device. If you're done with your tests, you could just click it and it will return to the old state. So let's make it even bigger so it will be easier. So yeah, so we saw how you could mimic some of the things in DevTools. It's not replacing your simulator, but it's definitely something that you could use while you are developing. The first step for speech-enabled apps are already here in WebKit, so just feel free to try and use it. Let's give it a quick try. New York. And yeah, you saw that's one of the things that I know how to say correctly, so we have 100% of success here. As we spoke about WebRTC, it's all done through Get User Media API, and here you could see how easy it is to just get the stream from your video or webcam. Here are some really impressive demos that just showing you the tip of the iceberg. Please feel free to play with some of them. How you're recording content. Basically, with this one-liner, we're attaching to the recorder, our object recorder, the local media stream. And then later on, we could just use XHR2 in order to send the information to be processed or be shared on the web. And yeah, it's supported on Chrome, Firefox, and Opera. Hopefully soon in other browsers. When we're speaking about this, we can't ignore streaming multimedia these days. And yeah, luckily for us, WebSockets are now enjoying the same benefits that web workers are enjoying. Basically, vice versa on the first bullet point here. And you could use binary data on them. And this short example just showing you how you slicing blob and sending it to a WebSocket service to being manipulated over there. Chrome Frame, for the ones that got user-based that is still using IE, maybe IE6, 7, 8, even 9. We have now Chrome Frame, which now for the past few years, which basically allow your users to enjoy all the great benefits that we saw in HTML5, drag and drop, WebGL, geo information, offline capabilities, local storage, IndexedDB, and more inside IE. Now, if you don't have any control on your server, just add this one meta tag to your HTML. And if you have control on your server, You just need to send this one HTTP header. I highly encourage you to check it out because your users will thank you. They could still be and work with IE, but they will gain huge improvement in performance, not only on your app, but on any other app or popular service like Maps, Gmail, Docs that is supporting it. Web audio is another very exciting new API in HTML5. We don't have time to get into it, but here are some really bold examples that just blow my mind when I look at them first time. Please feel free to check them out. And yeah, as we saw, the web can do amazing things these days. And the nice thing about it is it's just the beginning. So the pace is getting faster, and we're seeing HTML5 is basically flourishing everywhere. Yeah, so the web is basically what you will make out of it, and I can't wait to see new demos that will showcast and see in this I/O this year. Some resources from the talk, which basically one of the most interesting one is here. Cloud Endpoint is out of the trusted tester period, and if you want to test the water, just feel free to click here and give it a ride. Thank you very much, and if we have any questions, this is a great time to ask them. Yeah, so we had one question in the chat, but I can't understand. Do you want to ask it, or? Okay, okay. So yeah, thank you very much for being with us. Next week we are going to have Easy Vidra from Campus London, and we are going to speak with Easy on some new startups that are focusing on making better consumption by sharing it. So this is just a teaser. If you want to dive deeper and see what are the new trends that we see both here in Israel and up there in cold London, just be with us next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Bye-bye, and thank you very much.